Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be exploring Baichuan Omni 1.5. It's an AI model that's been making some pretty big waves in the open source community, and it's being hailed as a potential game changer, claiming to process information kind of like we do as humans using text, audio, images, and video. So to guide our deep dive today, we've got a technical report straight from Baichuan Inc. Are you ready to uncover what makes this model so special?
I think the big idea that they're really working towards is this model being able to interact with the world using all of our senses.
It's a pretty ambitious goal.
Yeah.
And what I found really interesting is that they've chosen to make this a fully open source project.
Yeah, that's a significant decision, I think. Open source models allow for much broader access and collaboration, especially when you compare them to some of the proprietary models that are out there, like GPT-4, and even the name Baichuan means 100 rivers. And the report explains that that name really reflects this idea of inclusivity, bringing together the best of open source AI development.
And if you look at figure 1 in the report, it gives a really good visual representation of how Baichuan Omni 1.5 stacks up against some of the existing models out there. But the thing that really struck me was that this model isn't just about understanding information. It can actually generate audio, too.
Yeah, and that opens up a lot of really interesting possibilities. Imagine an AI that can actually communicate with us naturally through conversation. That's a step closer to what we see in science fiction. And fueling this advancement is a massive data set of text, audio, and visual information. We're talking around 500 billion pieces of data.
Wow, they really went all in on data diversity.
Yeah.
Now, the report does mention something called this modality challenge.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's basically the difficulty of combining all these different data types
Yeah.
and making sure that they work together seamlessly.
Yeah, and they tackled this challenge with a three-pronged approach. So first, they have a dedicated pipeline to make sure the data quality is top-notch across all the modalities. They synthesize and clean the data, making sure it's consistent and reliable. And then second, they developed this Baichuan-Audio-Tokenizer. It's a pretty cool component. Basically, it helps the model to understand both the meaning and the acoustics of audio, and then seamlessly merges that with the language model. And then finally, they use a multi-stage training process. So they align the different modalities first, and then they fine-tune it for specific tasks. It's all about maximizing the synergy between those different data types.
It's like they're teaching this model to speak, see, and hear all at the same time.
Hmm.
And, figure 2 in the report is a visual representation of this really intricate architecture. It shows how Baichuan Omni 1.5 can process all these different inputs, and it can even generate both text and audio outputs.
Yeah, so let's break down this architecture a little bit. So you've got the visual branch, which processes images and video, transforming them into something that the model can actually understand. And then there's the audio branch, which is unique to Baichuan Omni 1.5. And this branch enables both speech input and output. So the Baichuan-Audio-Tokenizer that we talked about translates the audio signals into a language the model can understand, and then the flow-matching decoder translates the model's thoughts back into spoken words.
And at the heart of all of this is the LLM backbone, which is that core language model that's processing text and integrating information from both the visual and audio branches. And the report also mentions that Baichuan Omni 1.5 supports real-time voice interaction in both English and Chinese.
Yeah, that real-time voice interaction is huge. It's a big step towards more human-like communication with AI. The report also highlights Baichuan Omni 1.5's really exceptional performance in the medical domain, specifically its image understanding capabilities.
Oh yeah, and they actually even created a whole new open source medical benchmark called OpenMM Medical. And they combined 42 public medical image data sets to try to further advance AI in healthcare.
Yeah, that's going to be a really valuable resource for researchers working on AI applications in medicine. And then the report really dives deep into comparing Baichuan Omni 1.5's performance with other models, including GPT-4 and Qwen2-VL.
And what I find really interesting here is that despite being a multimodal model, it actually outperforms open source LLMs that focus solely on language when it comes to those pure language tasks.
It really highlights the robustness of its language processing capabilities.
Now let's talk about the data that was used to train this model. The report reveals a really fascinating approach to creating that training data set.
Yeah, they didn't just rely on public data sets. For image data, they went a step further and synthesized their own data using a dedicated caption model and books and papers that they collected in-house.
So they kind of took a similar approach with the video data, using public sources, but also generating captions for YouTube videos using GPT4o to create more high-quality examples.
Yeah, and they were very careful to ensure diversity in the data. They even synthesized a significant number of Chinese captions and interleaved data to avoid diluting the model's Chinese language capabilities.
Now, the audio data also reveals some pretty clever strategies. They used a vast amount of audio data, categorized into audio understanding and audio generation.
They put a strong emphasis on both pure audio and interleaved data, where text and audio alternate, helping the model to learn the connection between spoken and written language organically.
And of course, they didn't neglect the text corpus. They used a really wide range of sources: web pages, books, academic papers, even code.
It seems like they really wanted this model to learn not just language, but also how to think, how to understand the structure of language and different writing styles, and even the logic of code.
To push the boundaries of multimodal interaction even further, they synthesized data sets swiftly for that purpose, combining images and audio with text, and even varying the voice tones to add some complexity.
Yeah, this level of detail is really what sets this model apart. Now let's revisit those performance comparisons. We talked about Baichuan Omni 1.5's general performance, but the report goes deeper and provides some more specific insights worth exploring.
Yeah, for pure language tasks, they used benchmarks like MMLU, CMLU, AGEVAL, CEVAL, and even GOKO Bench, which actually uses questions from China's National College Entrance Examination.
It's pretty impressive if it can handle that level of academic rigor.
Well, the report indicates that Baichuan Omni 1.5 surpasses open-source LLMs that specialize only in language on these benchmarks.
So that really shows that they successfully balanced the various modalities during training and ensured that the language processing remains strong.
Now, for image understanding, they use 10 different benchmarks to get a really comprehensive view of its capabilities.
The results are impressive. Baichuan Omni 1.5 performs comparably to or better than other open-source models, and on certain tasks, it even surpasses proprietary models like GPT4o.
And in video understanding, the comparisons get even more interesting. They use benchmarks focusing on general video understanding and open-ended video question answering, which sounds pretty complex.
Baichuan Omni 1.5 excels in this area, especially with those open-ended video questions. It outperforms other open-source models and surpasses GPT4o-mini on one benchmark.
And this is where I think the unique capabilities of Baichuan Omni 1.5 really shine in audio understanding.
They actually went as far as developing and open-sourcing their own benchmark, called Open Audio Bench, to evaluate audio understanding across all kinds of different tasks, including question answering and ALPICA-EVAL, which tests how well the AI can understand and follow instructions.
So they really wanted to thoroughly evaluate those audio processing capabilities.
The key takeaway here is that Baichuan Omni 1.5 excels, particularly in tasks like speech-to-speech generation.
Now, they didn't stop at individual modalities either. They also tested Baichuan Omni 1.5 on what they call omni-tasks, which require processing information from multiple sources at the same time.
Yeah, this was the ultimate test of its multimodal abilities.
So did it rise to the challenge?
It did. It outperformed other open-source multimodal models, showcasing its ability to effectively integrate information from all these different sources.
And then finally, let's revisit those medical tasks. To assess its performance in this domain, they used two benchmarks: GMAI-M Bench, which is designed to evaluate models in real-world clinical settings, and their own OpenMM medical benchmark, which is focused on medical image understanding.
And in both of these benchmarks, Baichuan Omni 1.5 came out on top, proving its potential for real-world applications in healthcare.
It's really impressive how this model is pushing the boundaries of AI across so many different areas.
It really shows the power of open collaboration and the incredible speed of innovation that's happening in this field.
Well, in Part 3, we'll delve into the report's conclusion and explore what the future holds for Baichuan Omni 1.5.
Yeah, it really does.
Now let's talk about the data that was used to train this model. The report reveals I think, a pretty fascinating approach to creating that training data set.
Yeah, they didn't just rely on public data sets. For image data, they actually went a step further and synthesized their own data using a dedicated caption model and books and papers that they collected in-house.
So they took a similar approach with the video data then, using public sources. But they also generated captions for YouTube videos using GPT4o to try and create more of those high-quality examples.
And they were really careful to ensure diversity in the data. They even synthesized a significant number of Chinese captions and interleaved the data to avoid diluting the model's Chinese language capabilities.
The audio data also reveals some pretty clever strategies. They use a vast amount of audio data, categorized into audio understanding and audio generation.
Yeah, they put a strong emphasis on both pure audio and what they called interleaved data, where text and audio alternate. So it helps the model to learn the connection between spoken and written language more organically.
And of course, they didn't neglect the text
Oh,
corpus.
of course not.
They used a wide range of sources: web pages, books, academic papers, even code.
It seems like they really wanted this model to learn not just language, but to actually think how to understand the structure of language, different writing styles, even the logic of code.
And then to push the boundaries of multimodal interaction even further, they synthesized data sets specifically for that purpose, combining images and audio with text, and even varying the voice tones to add that extra layer of complexity.
Yeah, this level of detail I think really sets this model apart. So we've talked about the general performance of Baichuan Omni 1.5, but let's go back to those performance comparisons because the report provides some more specific insights that I think are worth exploring.
So for pure language tasks, they use benchmarks like MMLU, CMLU, HAEVOL, CEVOL, and even GOKL Bench, which uses questions from China's National College entrance examination.
Wow, so
Yeah.
if it can handle that level of academic rigor, that's pretty impressive.
The report indicates that Baichuan Omni 1.5 actually surpasses open source LLMs that specialize only in language on all of these benchmarks.
That really shows that they successfully balanced the different modalities during training and ensured that the language processing remains strong.
For image understanding, they use 10 different benchmarks to try and get a comprehensive view of its capabilities.
And the results are pretty impressive. Baichuan Omni 1.5 performs comparably to or better than other open source models, and on certain tasks, it even surpasses proprietary models like GPT-4o.
And the comparisons get even more interesting when we look at video understanding. They use benchmarks focusing on general video understanding and open-ended video question answering, which sounds incredibly complex.
Yeah, that's some next level stuff. But Baichuan Omni 1.5 excels in this area, especially with those open-ended video questions. It outperforms other open source models, and it even surpasses GPT-4o-mini on one benchmark.
And I think this is where the unique capabilities of Baichuan Omni 1.5 really shine. In audio understanding,
Yeah, they actually went as far as developing and open sourcing their own benchmark. It's called Open Audio Bench, and they use that to evaluate audio understanding across a bunch of different tasks, including question answering and Alpacaivo, which tests how well the AI can understand and follow instructions.
it sounds like they really wanted to thoroughly evaluate those audio processing capabilities.
The key takeaway here is that Baichuan Omni 1.5 excels, especially in tasks like speech-to-speech generation.
But they didn't stop at individual modalities. They also tested Baichuan Omni 1.5 on what they call omnitasks, which require processing information from multiple sources at the same time.
So this was like the ultimate test of its multimodal ability.
So does it rise to the challenge?
It did. It outperformed other open source multimodal models, showcasing its ability to integrate information from all these different sources.
And then finally, let's go back to those medical tasks. To assess its performance in this domain, they use two benchmarks: GMAI MBench, which is designed to evaluate models in real-world clinical settings, and their OpenMM medical benchmark, which focuses on medical image understanding.
And in both of these benchmarks, Baichuan Omni 1.5 came out on top, proving its potential for real-world applications in healthcare.
It's really impressive how this model is pushing the boundaries of AI in so many different areas.
It really is. It shows the power of open collaboration and the incredible speed of innovation in this field.
Welcome back to the deep dive. In the last couple parts, we really explored some of the remarkable capabilities of Baichuan Omni 1.5. So now let's take a look at the report's conclusions and the creator's vision for the future of this model.
Well, the report states that Baichuan Omni 1.5 represents significant progress towards an AI framework that encompasses all of our human senses. It's an ambitious goal, and they acknowledge that there's still work to be done.
They highlighted the model's strengths in both language and multimodal understanding, and particularly its ability to not only process a variety of inputs, but also generate both text and audio output.
And they're especially enthusiastic about its potential in healthcare, specifically its ability to understand medical images.
But despite all these achievements,
Yeah.
they also recognize that there's a need for further development.
Right. They're aiming to enhance the model's text understanding capabilities so that it can grasp longer video sequences and even comprehend environmental sounds, like, flowing water or birds chirping.
So it sounds like they're really striving to give AI a comprehensive understanding of the world, including all those sounds that we might take for granted.
Yeah, and their future research will focus on these areas as they work towards creating even more sophisticated and versatile models.
It's clear that they see Baichuan Omni 1.5 as just a stepping stone on this path towards artificial general intelligence.
And I think with its open source nature, the possibilities for collaboration and innovation are really limitless.
Well, this deep dive has been, I think, a really captivating exploration of a model that's truly pushing the boundaries of AI. And it shows the power of open source development and the incredible pace of innovation that's happening in this field. So thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.